When it comes to experimental music, lots of things are considered. Does it sound weird? Is it weird? Do I like the sound of it? And I think it's important, or I suppose I should let Plato, in his own words, dictate that this is important. In the words of Plato, music is a sound that inspires the soul, and an experimental sound is the sound of an experimental and indeed profound soul. Kid A is the fourth album by the band Radiohead, following Pablo Honey, which was a relative disappointment, The Bends, which was received quite successfully but didn't have that same depth as a lot of their other work, OK Computer, which by all accounts is its own masterpiece, and then Kid A, an album that needs no further introduction because this is what we're going to be talking about for an extended period of time today. So join me and let's discuss what I would describe as the most experimental album of all time. Before we start this video, I'd just like to thank our sponsor, Readbox. Readbox, are you tired of reading books all the time to gain knowledge? Well, with Readbox, what they do is they ship a box of words, and all you need to do is sit in that box of words for the next 5 days, and you'll come out smarter. Readbox, use code ColonelWilly45 for 45% off. Thank you, and back to the video. Now, due to the contents of this album and the fact that it does in fact talk about some very serious and macabre ideas, and it is a very melancholic, misanthropic album, I will lower my tone to suitably allow us to really get into the skin of this thing. I think with experimental music, the thing that I really particularly look for is the ability to, while it might be a little bit odd, the ability to still dance to the music. Because I think once you can't dance to it, it is no longer music. It is no longer an artistic merit. And luckily, Kid A, while it's very outlandish and weird, I think when calling it the most experimental album, and I use the word album as a piece of music, and I don't think something you can't dance to should really be considered music. At the end of the day, who listens to birds chirping outside in the back garden and dances to it? It's rather silly, in my opinion. And in the words of perhaps one of my favourite philosophers of all time, John Steinbeck, he said, "The only music I listen to is country." And you know why he listens to country music? Because he dances to it. Which proves my point that only geniuses would make that distinction. Because some people, they listen to the sad songs and it makes them cry. And those sad songs you just can't dance to. Which, luckily for Kid A, is not a problem. Now, what I find so experimental about this album, what I find so good, what I find so experimental and good about this album, is the way that all of the songs coalesce into a 40 odd minute feeling of just pure Tom York, radio, Johnny Greenwood energy, all congealed together in an album format, and it's perhaps one of the most sublime things ever. When you consider previous Radiohead albums, they always had a very alternative rock sound. Pablo Honey itself really did just sound like some sort of weird dredged up album from the grunge alt rock scene of the 90s. And The Bends, while a good album and while having plenty of merits, did feel a little bit generic compared to other things. OK Computer was really where they started to move into a certain direction. And Kid A, in that movement of OK Computer, Kid A takes a big left turn. In fact, I would dare to say it was the biggest left turn in all of music. I mean, you go from an album that's a masterpiece in its own right and has a couple of weird qualities to it into creating the most experimental album of all time. And in the words of philosopher and poet John Milton, yeah, Kid A was probably an 8 out of 10 album. See, even a genius like Milton would think about things this way. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to have to be quite serious about this because this does indeed have some pretty deep messaging. In fact, I will also impose a trigger warning on this video as well, because I do actually speak about some rather delicate subjects. What I propose to do is go by each song individually, analyze them in very thorough detail, very strong. We're going to get to the skin of this album. We're going to peel it open like some sort of orange fruit, and from there, hopefully all of you watching can gain the same profound appreciation, intellectual appreciation of this album that I do. There is even a couple of little surprises in here as well that back up why my thoughts on this album are superior to anybody else's, and why you should always listen to somebody who is very intellectually superior. Okay, let's get started with Everything in Its Right Place. When Thom Yorke says everything in its right place, he is implying that things aren't in the right place. By the absolution of nothing being in the right place, Thom Yorke is basically telling us that everything is currently in its right place, thus cementing his idea that Kid A was truly his masterpiece and that every other work was not in the right place. When he says he woke up sucking on a lemon, that is a shy allegory of Thom Yorke's vitamin C deficiency. This vitamin C deficiency is a reference to how British sailors would have vitamin C deficiencies as a result of not getting much fruit in their diet. Thom Yorke uses this allegory to say that he needs to eat more fruits and veggies. The second track, Kid A, named after the album Kid A, which is Radiohead's 4th album, has many interesting lyrics to demonstrate Thom Yorke's amazing lyricism. The first line says, "I slip away, I slipped on a little white lie." That is an allegory for the fact that Thom Yorke slipped over on ice like some kind of Machiavellian Super Mario Wii level in specifically World 3. This is also a testament to how white people lie because they are evil, and it's like decolonization statement, which is very profound because Thom Yorke is British. When it says we've got heads on sticks and you've got ventriloquists, that's Thom Yorke's rhyming style. He's trying to sound like a hip-hop song, again owing to their themes of decolonization within this song. Standing in the shadows at the end of my bed. This is a reference to Thom Yorke's sleep paralysis. This is a very worrying and troublesome testament, and probably the thing that kept him up at night and allowed him to expatiate his thoughts throughout this masterful work. The song ends with "The rats and the children will follow me out of town," a testament to Thom Yorke's uncleanliness as he records this absolute masterpiece, experimental, unjamblabith album, the zenith of his career. The national anthem is an unconventional song which exists within this album, using jazzy melodies to enhance the rock sound of this song. The lyrics too hold much important weight, which really is a testament to the genius, brilliance of this album and the experimental and sparse songwriting. Everyone around here, everyone is so near, is a reference to how all of the people, they're so close, but when it says it's holding on, that is an implication of something that is weak and torn asunder. A testament to Thom Yorke's alienation from society when writing this album. Then the verse almost repeats with everyone is so near, everyone has got the fear, some kind of fear that is driving society itself apart by the seams. Parts of Thom Yorke's amazing, brilliant songwriting. And then it just says it's holding on, as like the jazzy melodies just kick into gear like some amazing sounding thing of music, of songs and of melodies all interacting together as one. And then it just ends with the ominous smile, which is just very creepy and disturbing given the sound of this song. This album is not only a bastion of experimental music, perhaps even the most experimental album of all time, it is also incredibly disturbing and creepy. How to Disappear Completely is perhaps one of the most depressing and awful songs I've ever heard. Awful in a way of the feeling after hearing it. In fact, every time I hear this song, I get close to suicide. The lyrics are so macabre, and I think it is with this video that I can demonstrate the true brutality and sadness of this song. When Thom Yorke says that he walks through walls and floats down the life, that's his interpretation of his girlfriend who died of the cancers and is now a ghost, and now she can go through the walls. And it's also an abject statement on Thom Yorke's immaterial state that he was with when he made this album. Perhaps he had even had a vision from God and Jesus himself. Of course, we don't believe in God and Jesus because I am a true intellectual atheist, and I like to read about nihilism, which is one of my favourite leisurely pastimes. But it's also as if Thom Yorke has expanded his physical being, just like that time I expanded my physical being with smoking the weed. He then says words like, "In a little while I'll be gone, the moment's already past, yeah, it's gone," which has this feeling of ominous dread. Where's Thom Yorke going? To the shops? To Tesco's? To Walmart? To B&M? To Asda? To Lidl? To Aldi? No. To the grave. He then says, strobe lights and blown speakers, fireworks and hurricanes, very stimulatively heavy objects with a very heavy permanence. A strobe light, incredibly bright, a blown speaker, incredibly brutal, a firework loud, and a hurricane destructive. All of these things are just the feelings of unease and tension that exist within Thom Yorke himself. And then he just says, I'm not here, this isn't happening, I'm not here, I'm not here. Which, again, I don't think he's at Tesco's or B&M or Lidl or Aldi or Asda or any such brand shop, or he's not even round that corner that does pints three for £5. I think he means he's dead in the grave of the suicides. And then he just says which is just the wellingness of the emotions, which feels incredibly disturbing. The following track is Tree Thinkers, the first instrumental interlude within Kid A. I think it is incredible how Radiohead were perhaps the first band to include an instrumental and ambient interlude within their music. It is truly unprecedented and something that music has never had before. It is one of the reasons why I would consider Kid A to be the most experimental album of all time, and in fact the most experimental piece of music of all time. Optimistic is one of the more rock-oriented songs on this album. He says things like, "Flies are buzzing round my head, vultures circling the dead, picking up every last crumb. The big fish eat the little ones. The big fish eat the little ones." This is a testament to the lifestyle that Thom Yorke had to endure to create such an experimental album. Just like when a Buddhist monk is not eating or having sex or drinking alcohol to gain spiritual insight. Likewise, does Thom Yorke go without being clean and having flies buzzing around him and vultures circling the dead and eating all of his leftover bread that he doesn't have any more of. You see, Thom Yorke led a very serious and unfulfilled life of abstinency from everything to create Kid A. Ironically, by being in nature, he could do the unthinkable, combine rock music with electronic music. Wow. The chorus, it says, "You can try the best you can, you 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 can try the best you can, the best you can is good enough." You see, that is a very good line, which is why I repeated it a couple more times than is actually said in the song, because it's Thom Yorke telling himself that he can try his best, but it's only going to be good enough. But what he doesn't realise is that by trying his best, he not only creates the most disturbing album of all time, he creates the most experimental album of all time at the same time. Simultaneously, at the same time, in parallel. Yeah. Then the next verse says, "This one is optimistic. This one went to market. This one came out of the swamp. This one drops a payload. Fodder for the animals living on an animal farm." Now, animal farm is a very interesting allegory because animals, they live in mud, just like we live in society. In many ways, that mud is a reflection of our own misgivings. And when he's talking about this one going to the market and this one going to the swamp, he's talking about in the earlier song how he says about where is he going, and we established it was not Lidl or Asda or Aldi, but to the grave. These are the alternate versions of him, the re-manifested versions of Thom Yorke that appearing and he sees while he's doing his act of abstinence. And he's seeing those, and none of those can create Kid A, but he can, you see. All of these are just different. One of them is optimistic, but this Thom Yorke, he's a sad man. He's clinically, psychologically depressed. But that's okay, because he made Kid A. And then the chorus repeats again, and that motif remains, that theme stays, that idea keeps trucking and keeps going. And then he says, "I'd really like to help you, man. I'd really like to help you, man. Nervous, messed up marionette floating round in a prison ship." And that's how Tom was seeing all of these alternate versions of himself, all of these remanifestable, lunchable, reconfigurable Tom York, John York, all of them, mate. Steve York, Tom Falk, all of them. All of these different ones. All of these different versions of himself. He wants to help, but he can't because he lives in this current era created by science and atheism and smart atheist scientists like Isaac Newton. And then he says nervous, messed up marionettes floating around in a prison ship. I don't know what that means. Then he ends the song by talking about dinosaurs roaming the earth, proclaiming that this version of Tom York himself is an intellectual, a man of the science. He sees the dinosaurs that roam the earth, and he says, by science's will, thou art here, that thou art here, thou art in existence by science's grace. This reminds me of a quote by Aristotle, and this quote by Aristotle is very simple. It says, although I am not a dinosaur, I have the knowledge of a T-Rex, who is also a man, who is also a philosopher. And also I think that Pablo Honey is the best Radiohead album. You see, Aristotle was only the smartest man of his time, and these days intellectuals like me exist. In Limbo is a floaty, mesmerising track from Kid A that makes heavy use of dreamy imagery. His themes are loneliness, being lost, confusion on water. It was originally titled Shipwrecked. The theological meaning of limbo is that of a place that is outside of hell and outside of heaven, which of course is very absurd because neither of those concepts really do exist. The intro reads Lundy, Fastnet, Irish, C. I got a message. I can't read. Another message. I can't read, which is almost a very jovial moment in this sea of mesmerising, utter loneliness and confusion. And then the song says, I'm on your side, nowhere to hide. Trapdoors that open, I spiraled down. You see, when Tom York fell on the ice all of those years ago, he still feels that pain of falling from his feet head first onto that concrete floor. It was like a trapdoor of pain had opened in his skull. And then the chorus says, you are living in a fantasy world, which is his own inner monologue when he's thinking, on my mission of abstinentism, in this mission of abstinentism, to create the world's greatest piece of music, like Carlos Santana before me, and like Skrillex before him, I'm living in some sort of mirage of a world. It's a lonely one, but it is a thing that allows him to create this album of pure experimentation. I'm lost at sea. Don't bother me. I've lost my way. I've lost my way. This is very simply just the turmoil of writing this album. An experimental and meta-analysis of his metaphysical thoughts in his brain, scanning down to create this meta line in a meta way about this very, very highly meta album, which I think is amazing. It's just like there's a show I like, but this will be a video in a future day. And then it just says the same words as the beginning. a very haunting tale of the rest of the album. It's a fantastic song, this one. Idiotech is perhaps the most experimental song of all time. Why would I say perhaps it is? That is stupid. It is in fact the most experimental song of all time, having lyrics like "Who's in the bunker?" and "Who's in the bunker?" and then "Here I am alive, everything all the time." All of these lyrics, they come together to congeal in a very fast-pacedly sung way. They can converse into some sort of encapsulation of a song that just feels so much like a piece of Thom Yorke's very soul, his very existence. Obviously I don't believe in the soul, but I'm sure you can understand my point of Thom Yorke's intertwining thoughts and feelings that have been expressed onto this canvas of an album. And then he says, Ice Age coming, let me hear both sides, let me hear both sides, let me hear both. Ice Age coming. And this is a feeling of his own frigidity, about his own rigidity, about his own insecurities, about some sort of cataclysmic event. You see, this album, this was made in the fear. During Thom Yorke's long expedition, he saw a visage, and in that visage he realised that the 2012 Mayan incident was about to go down, and he conflates that with an ice age, a cataclysmic event that would affect the humans and society itself. And then he realised, perhaps no, in his later years, this cataclysmic event would indeed instead be the climate change, which feels more fitting because it is an ice age that is coming. And then he's talking about how we're not scaremongering, this is really happening. Another set of words that exemplify this genuine existential fear. This is very it's a very meta existential view of Thom Yorke's nihilism in this current moment. It's in fact very Nietzschean as well, and macabre. He then says, mobile squirting, mobile chirping, take the money and run, take the money and run, take the money. How we were so willing to sell our own prosperity for wealth, how everybody is distracted looking at their phone. You see, Black Mirror in fact made a episode about this very song that Thom Yorke made, because the idea when it was made was so outlandish and so experimental that now we realise just what Thom Yorke was saying, what his days in the desert, days as in D-A-Z-E and D-A-Y-S, what they meant, what they came to. And this is why it's so experimental, because the lyrics are so powerful and it's this fusion of beats and bops, and it feels so blunt and in your face, and I don't think any music has ever done that before. No music has ever been as explicit and blunt as this. Nothing, not even Asking Alexandria or any other strong metal music. Warning Bell begins with this very dull sound, a feeling of ominous mystery, of spooky malevolence. And then the lyrics come in. The morning bell, light another candle and release me. This feeling of trappedness, being entrapped, being ensnared, being entangled. A feeling of true claustrophobia. Seriously. A very ominous, eerie feeling. Perhaps as scary as some of the other moments. As I have said many times in this video, this perhaps is one of the most disturbing albums of all time because of the subject matter of some of these songs. You can keep the furniture, a bump on the head, howling down the chimney. Another feeling of insecurity and strife which permeates through the very thickness of this song. The whole song has this feeling of waiting for some kind of obligation, of waiting for some sort of relief in a very insecure, trapped location. Now, could this be an allegory to Thom Yorke's exploits in the desert? Yes, that is exactly what this song is about. And again, part of the experimental malaise of songs that come together in the album format and smash together and create this magnificent piece of music, the greatest piece of music ever to be made in this world. Amazing, brilliant, sublime. This also comes into the last track that has got vocals, which is probably the most haunting part of this whole album. And we're going to talk about that next. Motion picture soundtrack is easily the bleakest, most misanthropic part of the whole album. The beginning lyrics, red wine and sleeping pills help me get back to your arms, a feeling of a need for depressant drugs to get to a state of slumber and comfort. Truly upsetting, tragic, cheap sex and sad films help me get where I belong. Again, cheapening those emotional feelings he's got in his gut and heart and skin and brains and fingers and fingernails. He's using all of these things, all of these vanity and things to create some kind of false reality, a false dichotomy in the same way. This is the build-up to him making Kid A. This is his lowest point, and he's ending Kid A in that to show this is where he was before Kid A, and then in the hopes that the day that Kid A gets released, everything gets good for Thom Yorke, because they will realise he is the greatest musician, the best intellectually superior musician of all time. A genius, I say. A genius, sir. A genius indeed. And then he says, I think you're crazy. Maybe I think you're crazy. Maybe a self-reflection of his own self-destructive behaviour in pursuit of this feeling, you see. But he also thinks he's crazy because he's going to go out into the desert and wander for years, maybe decades, centuries, millenniums. Why not? Why not? Why not millenniums? Oh, let's even throw a philosopher quote in here. Steve Stanfield once said, I've been in the desert all these years. Please somebody find me. And that's how Thom Yorke's feeling in the song. That's what I'm saying. Then it says, stop sending letters. Letters always get burned. It's not like the movies. They feed us on little white lies. That same line from earlier, little white lies, it repeats. It's all connected. Everything about this album is connected in some way or the other. It's a collection of ideas. Music, albums, it's the thing. It's all together. It's all one, you see. An intellectual like me would know that. A genius like me would know that. That's why I made this video, because I see people talking about albums. They get to this point with albums and they're thinking, you know what? That was pretty good. It's not Kid A though, is it? It's not Kid A. Oh yeah, that new Fall Out Boy album was decent. It was fucking shit compared to this. Oh mate. You know what? That new Slow Tie album, I'm thinking it's pretty good. Fucking shit, mate. Who wants to listen to a song made by a fucking evil man like Slow Tie when you've got Thomas Yorke and Johnny Greenwood and the rest all together making that music, making that Kid A. And then the same lyrics just repeat, and you've got this feeling of just warm molasses of song lyrics just going everywhere. It's this album is the greatest piece of music since I don't think there was a greater piece of music than this. And we still have one song to go, an ambient ending to this album, because it's my idol, it's my hero. It's in fact the greatest philosophic minded man before me once said, all good things must come in video essay format. And the man who said that was Thom Yorke himself. That's what he told me. He came to me in a vision and said, Colonel Willie, I've got one challenge for you. And I said, what do you want, Thom Yorke, in your infinite wisdom and glory? And he says, I see you've got a YouTube channel here. You got about 50 odd subscribers. Got a King Crimson parody video, 11,000 subscribe video views. 11,000. Do you know how many people that is? 11,000. And he says, I need you to tell the story of Kid A, to tell the story of my exploits in the desert, because only a true intellectual like you would understand it. And I said, I don't know, Thom Yorke. I'm not sure I've got the capacity. I mean, I don't like YouTube video essays because they're usually just boring, pretentious snobs rattling on about the same hobbies, writing really absurdly long essays and trying to use as many complicated words to sound smart, or as many harebrained fucking references to philosophers as possible. I just don't know if I can do it. I mean, I've got a degree of self-respect to a point where, you know, I don't want to put on a fake persona and pretend that I'm some sort of intellectually superior person because I've looked at a couple of quotes on the internet, or I've been to university and spoken to a college professor who's probably just whacked out on fucking coffee and antidepressants. I just don't think I've got it in me, Thom Yorke. And Tom says, but my son, Colonel Willie, if you make this video, I will make the most amazing album you've ever heard. And I say, what album is that, Tom? Kid A 2. So, while we talk about Untitled, I do have some secret news to end this video on, but we'll finish this last song. I'll also show you proof that I've spoken with Thom Yorke, and I've also shown this video to him as well, so he's very happy with this. And then I'll talk about the announcement for Kid A 2, ending this with a quote from another philosophic genius, one about as intelligent as Thom Yorke, maybe not quite, but very, very close, and one that I think all of you at home will very much enjoy. After a minute of unforgivable silence, unforgivable was not the word I intended. After a minute of harrowing silence, Untitled finally wraps up this album. Now, the only reason you're staying here is, number one, you're excited about Kid A 2, which Thom Yorke's told me all about. Number two, for some reason you found some humour within this video, but I've got a very important message. To the family of Lieutenant Chode, you may have seen in the last video that he had some information relating to Hillary Clinton's arrest. We are pursuing that. We are pursuing that We are going to expose what happened in Haiti. And Kid A2 will be our way of exposing this heinous bitch and getting Lieutenant Cho's last message out there. They tried to put the blood on my hands for that one because he was doing a YouTube video when he did that. Wrong. There was a cow in the middle of that road when he crashed and burned and died. A fucking cow. And now he's dead. There won't be any more Lieutenant Cho. Just fucking Colonel Willie left. Everyone else is gone. The only person I've got left is Tom York. Me and Tom York and the rest of the band, I suppose. All we can do now is make Kid A2 and hopefully impress, I don't know, a few weird art-inclined people on the internet. You know, maybe we'll get Billboard and a little Guardian article with a wee fucking message saying this album was fantastic, we really loved it, goes well with pegging, something like that. I don't fucking know anymore. But, you know, you're obviously all excited about Kid A2 and the upcoming trial against Hillary Clinton. You know, we'll ensure that we wear body cams for that one because, you know what happens. Anyway, for those of you who are also doubters, you're watching this out of a morbid curiosity. Oh, he didn't speak to Tom York, he's just fake. He just lies like everyone else everyone on the internet says they've spoken to Tom York. This ain't r/Radiohead, alright? We don't just lie about interactions. We don't lie for that updo karma. You want to fucking talk about Radiohead? I've got an interview with Tom York. And you know what? I know none of you fuckers are going to readbox.com and claiming that 45% off. Don't matter. Don't matter to me. I've got my paycheck. Don't fucking matter. You might not sponsor me again. I might have to starve on the streets. Got no fucking friends left except for Tom York. You bastards. But you know what? I'll show it. I'll show it because, you know, you're not going to believe me. You're not going to give me £1 million on Patreon a month to buy whatever I want. Probably new Radiohead album. But, you know, I'll show you the interview. And then I'll show you this final quote, which is a true piece of my soul when we're listening to that album. And that's it. Won't be any more Colonel Willie videos. It's done. The channel's done. Whoever's watching this to this moment, yeah, just to see this fucking interview I obviously made up, right? It's done. Channel's gone. I'm gonna delete this channel in 2 weeks. Watch me. Fucking watch me, motherfuckers. You guys don't deserve Colonel Willie. I put on all these interviews. I lose Lieutenant Cho. He's dead. It wasn't even me putting on another voice. It's a real man. He's died in a car accident. Nobody even clicks on it. For 200 views. Fuck's sake. 200 fucking views. Are you kidding me? Piss 200 views. Ridiculous. Anyway, you all want to see this interview. We'll get that up. And then we'll end the video with this quote. Very fascinating. And then that's it. I don't have to deal with any of you fuckers ever again. Bastards. You know what? Fuck Kid A as well. It's a shit album. I mean, it's a 9 out of 10 album, but I'm not going to say that. I'm like, you know, obviously you're just trying to make some profit and be like fucking, oh mate, yeah, this is the biggest fucking left-turn of music. You kidding me? That's just retarded and wrong. You got some like slack-jawed retard on YouTube like saying how it's some like experimental masterpiece. I mean, it's a fucking solid piece of work. I ain't denying that, but it just feels like a very misinformed view. Because you know, maybe if you've heard 100 albums, it's one of the most experimental you've ever heard. Or if you're not into that sort of stuff, maybe it stands out a little bit. I don't fucking know. But yeah, you don't need a 40-minute essay to explain to you why an album's good. And if you're watching looking for that, genuinely, fuck you. You absolute or fucking buffling retard. Anyone who's watching for a laugh or for whatever reason, you know, like, subscribe, it really doesn't matter. But yeah, let's get this interview gone, and I'm out of here. Fuck the world. Free Tupac and Biggie, motherfucker.
Hello, Colonel Willie. It is me, Tom York. Thank you for taking some time to create this video. I intended to make Kid A my experimental masterpiece. I am glad to say you have a complete understanding of it.
Thank you, Tom York, for proving me right amongst all of these Radiohead fans. And with that interview concludes this amazing analysis of Colonel Willie King A video. Now, you might wonder why I sound a bit fucking faced. I've been drinking since that interview, motherfuckers. I'm drinking. Now, I'm gonna leave you with a fucking quote. If you want to see Colonel Willie in real fucking life, I'm drunk on the streets of New York City. Tom York's left me. It's all gone. Stanley Cho's gone. Tupac and Biggie are already dead. Kid joke. Alright, here's a fucking niche quote I made up. Enjoy the video or don't. Don't bother me at all. Good night, internet.
Both of them motherfuckers, Michael Richards and OG Sister. OG Sister ain't seen nothing racist, but that fucking Michael Richards, that nigga's a motherfucking man in Harlem. Don't ever come to Harlem, nigga. Stay in Cali or Florida, nigga. Your ass is dead, nigga.
Now, will this hinder you from watching Seinfeld?
I don't know. First of all, that nigga Kramer is corny anyway. Fuck out of here. I like George, motherfucker.